I don't even... Okay, this is a video on IZO. Yeah, I know, IZO. I never thought I'd be here either, so don't be confused, okay? Now, IZO... He is the 16th Division Commander of the Whitebeard crew, alright? And, you know, I'm looking at all the Whitebeard Division Commanders, and most of them look pretty cool. It's just that we don't know much about their backstory or anything, so I thought to myself, you know what, I'll just make one video covering all of them, and I did last December, and I really liked making that video, and it turned out okay, and I'm thinking, alright, great. You know, if there's gonna be any Division Commander that I would make just a solid video all about, I figured it was gonna be Marco, and I probably still will, because Marco's part in the story is definitely not done. Jozu, Vista, I mean, they're probably gonna pop back up again. I mean, we saw Vista as like one of the best swordsmen out there, like clashing with Mihawk. He is definitely gonna make an appearance, right? Jozu lost an arm during the war, but he could pop back up again. I thought I'd be talking about one of those guys. Not IZO, but actually, this is not because I ran out of ideas or anything and I'm just scraping the bottom of the barrel. No, IZO actually turned out to be what's looking like a significant character in the Wano arc where we're at right now. It hasn't been outright, like, explained to us. It's not like IZO has, like, appeared before the Straw Hats, like, my name is IZO, the 16th Division Commander of the Whitebeard crew, here to assist you, Straw Hat Luffy. Nothing like that, but it's been shown through SBS that IZO has heritage in Wano. He grew up there, and we see an image of him as a child, you know, practicing like his kabuki, and obviously the way he dresses looks like, you know, indicative of feudal Japan, you know, Wano country. And in one of the most recent chapters of the manga, we get a flashback to an undetermined time period when Yasuie was the daimyo of the Hakumai region. This was well before Kaido and Orochi took over, and we see a shot of the Nine Red Scabbards, although they weren't the Nine Red Scabbards yet. That wouldn't be until later, but we saw them there in the past, and we see a character in the place of Kiku that looks suspiciously like IZO. You know, when I first saw this character, I kind of just believed, like, I guess that's Kiku, but it doesn't really resemble Kiku at all, you know? And it looks a lot more like IZO. In fact, it's like kind of like a dead ringer for IZO. And so, considering Oda already set him up like he was from Wano, it would make sense that he would tie into this arc in some way. The Whitebeard crew has been scattered across the world since the Payback War. It would make sense that IZO would head back to his homeland, to Wano country, and, you know, after he found out everything that was going on there and all that stuff, maybe he's just laying low, and he'll reveal himself eventually to the Straw Hats and to the, you know, the Samurai Alliance and everything, and he'll give his power to them, alright? And maybe help them out with some information he gathered, or something on Whitebeard's crew. I don't know. But yeah, IZO ended up being relevant. Who'da thunk it? I mean, out of all of the division commanders, let me seriously ask you a question. I want an answer on this. And don't cheat it, okay? During Marineford, when we first got introduced to all of the division commanders, was IZO, out of all of those, your favorite? Was, like, out of every single one, like, we had Diamond Jozu, big muscular dude, turned into Diamond, blocked Mihawk's shot, Marco turning into a damn phoenix, blue fire awesomeness everywhere, Vista's clashing with freaking, Mihawk, and even beyond those guys that are strong, and we get to find out the most about those guys, just the other division commanders that just look interesting, like, we have Namor, who is the 8th division commander, who's like some kind of shark fishman, the only fishman on Whitebeard's crew. He's pretty cool. We got He-Man lookalike King Do. We got Blamenko, who is an obese man wearing a pair of overalls with a pink bear on them that he can pull giant mallets out of hammer space located in pockets on his chin. But out of all of those guys, IZO. That's the one that everybody's, like, paying attention to, okay? I'm sure there's a few of you out there. I'm sure there's a few people that were like, yeah, you know, I was reading Marineford, and I'm looking at all the division commanders, and yeah, we don't get to see very much of, you know, the ones outside of the top 5, but I'm looking at IZO, and I was rather interested in what's going to happen with him. All right, well, I'm sure there's even people out there that were seeing as the first time they looked at IZO, they were like, he's from Wano country, calling it right now. And if that's the case, well, I give you the clap of correctness. There you go. Good job, guys. All right. Now, I think another reason why I kind of dismissed IZO, and I'm sure a lot of people probably did, was he's the 16th division commander out of the 16 divisions on Whitebeard's crew, right? Now, the divisions, I'm sure, are not ranked like strongest to weakest or anything like that, but you look at the first division headed up by Marco, who is, like, you know, one of the strongest members of the entire crew. Same thing with, you know, Ace number 2 and Jozu number 3, right? And so you keep going down, and I'm sure it's not like IZO is, like, super weaker than Fossa, who's the 15th division or anything like that, but, you know, you look at that and he's like the very last division in the crew, and he heads that up. So maybe that's another reason to kind of dismiss him, or maybe that's another reason why Oda wanted him to stand out. Like, okay, we're going to pay attention to the divisions that are the lowest numbers, but also the very last division, I'm going to give that to somebody that also is important, so pay attention to them, right? Now, during the war, we don't really get much from IZO in terms of character background or development or anything like that. Very much like a lot of the other division commanders. They're just there to fight off against the Marines, and so we cut back to them every now and then. We'll cut back to King Du, you know, putting a Marine in a freaking headlock. We'll cut over to Curiel, who is the 10th Division commander. He's like that Vietnam War vet, like, bring it on, Marines! You know, and we just cut over to IZO. IZO uses just a standard flintlock pistol throughout most of Marineford. Kind of a boring weapon, but then you stop to think, he charged into a huge battle at Marineford. You know, devil fruit powers, hockey everywhere, Rokushiki techniques, bouncing around, and he's just like, yeah, just give me some flintlocks and I'll be good. You know? And he managed to succeed. Probably the coolest shot we see of him during the war is he's going up against a Marine that has a sword, and IZO just takes out his pistol and just kind of pulls sort of like a, you know, a reverse Mihawk. Remember when Mihawk got shot at and he just kind of bounced the bullets off of his, you know, blade and they just, you know, ricocheted away? You know, basically IZO, you know, fired the bullets at this guy's sword so precisely that it shattered the sword blade. And IZO's just like, kind of a fragile blade, if I do say so myself. So he's kind of enjoying himself there, you know, very confident in his own abilities. Later on, during, I think, the end of Marineford, we do see him with a sword, but we don't see him fighting with said sword a lot during the arc. Like, we don't cut over to, like, IZO going up against a Vice Admiral, like, Stainless, or God help you, Momonga, like, clashing with a blade. But if he's from Wano, it would make sense that he would have a katana, you know what I mean? It's just, it seems like his preferred weapon is the flintlock pistol. Okay? And so we see him again, of course, when Whitebeard dies. You know, we get a shot of all the division commanders crying for Pops, and we see IZO there doing the same thing. But after that, I mean, we don't really get much more of him. Same deal with the other commanders. They managed to get out of Dodge. He survived the war. He got out. But just nothing else beyond that. Until a few years later, you know, somebody asked Oda a question in an SBS, you know, what were the division commanders like when they were children? And these are common questions Oda gets asked all the time. He's drawn, like, the warlords as children. He's drawn, like, the Mysterious Four at Thriller Bark as children. So somebody asked him, you know, draw the division commanders as children. The ones that Oda chose, Marco, Jozu, Vista, makes sense. They're the ones that are apparently the strongest and get the most screen time. And then IZO. He didn't pick Flamenco or King Du or Speed Jiru. He picked IZO, of all people, implying that maybe Oda doesn't have a backstory for every single member of the Whitebeard, you know, crew. Maybe he has, like, a very brief overview or something. Maybe he's like, oh yeah, Curiel, you know, he was a weapons expert when he was a kid, he was a mercenary, and he joined the Whitebeard crew. That's all I wrote for Curiel. It would make sense. I mean, you don't have to have a huge backstory for everybody. But it seems with IZO, no, he was definitely planning something for IZO way back then, okay? That's the thing with Oda. It's just, I love this story so much. I love this guy as an author, okay? Because, you know, he's like, oh yeah, there's a background character that appears, doesn't really do much, and then cut to, like, 10 years later, and like, oh yeah, no, they're very significant, so I hope you were paying attention! And, you know, it kind of also makes me want the Straw Hats to run into some other of the Whitebeard allies that we saw at Marineford. You know, like, we had Lightning McGuy, we had the A&O Pirates, which were wiped out by Weevil, we had Whitney Bay, we had the Walrus dude that probably is a mink, I'm not sure, and then we had the Caterpillar guy. guy. So many colorful characters we got to be introduced to during Marineford that just haven't shown up since, Weevil's hunting them right now. So maybe we'll see them again later. I just hope Lightning Magai makes it out alive. If nothing, just to see his mustache again, right? So anyway, the deal with IZO, probably the most distinguishing character trait that he does have that sets him apart from the other division commanders and things is IZO is a cross-dresser, okay? He wears the makeup, he has lipstick, although he's not the same kind of cross-dresser that Bonclay or Ivankov are. He's not quite as flamboyant as those characters, right? He is more of the cross-dresser more in, like, the theater kind of sense of cross-dressing. Like, like back in the day, during Shakespeare's time, because I'm a fan of, I've read some of Shakespeare's plays and stuff, you would have male actors playing female characters in Shakespeare's plays. That's just how it was, right? So, kind of the same deal in Japanese kabuki, traditional Japanese kabuki plays. You would have a thing called onagata, which ona is just the Japanese word for woman, so you'd have, like, woman's role in during plays, and so you would have men portraying women in these instances. In fact, there was actually a time period in the 17th century, in the 1600s in Japan, where women were forbidden to be in kabuki because riots and things would break out, like not like a full-scale riot, but like fights and things. Like, you'd have a bunch of patrons watching the play, and there'd be guys trying to curry favor with their favorite kabuki actress or their favorite geisha or something, and be like, no, I like her more than you do. Bam! No, she's mine. Bam! And just be like, there'd be fights breaking out. There were also problems with, like, prostitution at the time, and so they decided to crack down on this and just like, oh, women are no longer allowed to participate. Now, the ban didn't last for very long. It only lasted a few years. But that actually, during the ban, didn't really solve the problem either, because there's never a limit to people's, like, sexual desire and things, because oh god, I can't believe I'm bringing this up, but this was historical. Okay, so there's another kind of kabuki. There's Yaro kabuki, which is just men's kabuki, so the same deal, just like instead of women's roles, it was men's roles. But then you had another kind of kabuki, which was wakashu kabuki. And if you don't know what this is, wakashu kabuki literally translates to adolescent boy or adolescent male kabuki. So you would have, teenage boys dress up in the roles for the kabuki theater. And during the ban, when women weren't allowed to participate, fights and things would actually, the same kind of problems as with the woman's, role would happen with the wakashu kabuki. And so they ended up banning that as well. So you only have adult men that could participate in kabuki theater. Now, eventually both of these bans were lifted in the weirdest way. From what I understand, what happened was the ban was lifted in like the mid 17th century, in like the 1650s, right? And it's like, all right, everybody, you can all do kabuki now. You can have men and women and blah, 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 except you all have to adopt like a shaved head style that was the popular adult male hairstyle during the time. So I don't think that would really have solved the problem with the prostitution and the fighting, but that's what they decided to do. So, okay then. So, yeah, that's the kind of cross-dressing that IZO has, like, oh, I'm just, a kabuki actor, and in this case, I'm like in a role for a woman instead, so I'm gonna wear the geisha makeup and the lipstick and everything, and that's just what I'm gonna do. Also, don't think of it like a joke or a gag. Don't think of it like, oh, it's a male actor, and we're gonna put a funny wig on you and cake your face up with all this makeup and put lipstick, and you go out there and entertain the crowd, and everyone's just laughing like, ha ha, guy dressed like a girl, this is good entertainment. No, this was like taken way more seriously. This was taken like, and it's actually, shown in One Piece how, how much work Robin had to go through to become a proper geisha. She has her mentor there, that old wrinkled lady with the shamisen, like, you have to raise your hips up more and then drop your frame and dance in this way. Like, it's a lot of training involved here to be a proper geisha or a proper kabuki actor or actress, So it was taken very seriously in this role here. It doesn't matter what gender you were, you're an actor, you're a performer, you're an entertainer. You have to take this kind of role seriously, which I'm sure IZO does, okay? So there's the origin to that, right? Now, going to that panel we saw in the most recent chapters of One Piece, I think it was like 2 or 3 chapters ago, okay? We see this scene with the Nine Red Scabbards, much younger. Kinemon has like a mohawk in the flashback, and freaking Kanjuro's rocking like a pompadour, like Kuwabara gangster kind of look, you know? So they're way young. Now, we don't know when this took place, but it has to have been taken at least 20 years ago, you know, or, you know, further back than that, most definitely, because 20 years ago, that was, of course, when Kaido and Orochi took over. And it also was even more than 25 years ago because Nekomamushi and Inuarashi are there, and this is before they journeyed with Roger. I mean, honestly, if we're being honest, they look like in their late teens or early 20s in this panel. And we only know the ages right now of 2 of the members of the Nine Red Scabbards. We know Kinemon's, who is, he's 36 right now, and Kanjuro is 39. That is their biological age, not chronologically, because of the time jump. Yeah, the whole time travel thing kind of makes it a little bit more complicated, right? But no, now, if we're gonna go with the fact that these characters here look like in their late teens or early 20s, we have to go back, you know, 20 years to get to that age, but also we have to tack on another 20 years because of the time jump. So this panel right here, I like to think, is somewhere between 30 and 40 years ago from the present storyline of One Piece, okay? If this was 30 years ago, that would be 10 years before Kaido and Orochi took over. So if that's the case, I can kind of go with that. And that also gives 10 years for Oden, because Oden was exiled during this flashback. So that would give enough time for Oden to rise back to power, take over the Kuri region, clean it up, fight against Ashura, Doji, and everything, and make Kuri the good place that it was under his reign as daimyo, and then welcomed back into the family, right? So it takes time to do all that, right? So I'm going to say 30 years ago from the current storyline minimum. It might be 35 years, 40 years might be pushing it a little bit, because that would be 20 years ago, so that would mean that Kanjuro is 19 here, and Kinemon is only 16, so I like to think maybe they're a little bit older than that, maybe in their 20s there. But then you get IZO. IZO is located in this flashback as well. If we're just going to assume, like, okay, it's definitely him, 100%. Like, hypothetically, we're just going to go with it. It could be somebody else. Sure, I'm sure that hairstyle and that, you know, geisha appearance and everything in the makeup, it's not something that's only limited to IZO in Wano, but let's just assume it's IZO, 100%. Okay, fine. So, if that's the case, let's say it's 30 years ago, right? Obviously, IZO was not part of the time jump. Okay, so he didn't go into the future with everybody like that. In fact, what's more likely to have happened, that IZO might have went with Inuarashi and Nekomamushi and journeyed maybe on Roger's ship, and then eventually met Whitebeard, and IZO decided to go over to Whitebeard's side, like, or maybe Whitebeard just visited Wano and IZO decided to go with him. Maybe Whitebeard helped out his family or did something, and, you know, he indebted himself to Wano, and IZO is just like, you know, I will come with you, I will call you father, you know, maybe something like that. And he left to journey with the Whitebeard crew, and so that left an opening in the Nine Red Scabbards, and so they enlisted Kiku. Alright, Kiku, we don't have an age for her either, but I'm also assuming she is not older than 30 years old, okay? Like, she looks like she's in between 20, 25 right now in the story, which means that, you know, okay, take away the 20-year time gap, and so let's just add on the 10 years, let's say it was 30 years ago that this panel was the case. Kiku might have been like 10 or like maybe 15 at the oldest here, you know, and if that's the situation, then I don't really think, I mean, she might have been, but I just don't think that works, okay? I think even back then, during this flashback, Kiku was too young to be a Nine Red Scabbard member, okay? So, IZO was the original member of that, and so he left with Whitebeard, let's just say 30 years ago, and he journeyed with him, and he rose through the ranks, eventually became a division commander and everything like that, and just dedicated himself to the Whitebeard crew. Still cared very much for Wano. I mean, he still dressed in the Wano garb, and he wore his geisha makeup and everything, so he still, you know, felt connected to his homeland. It's just like, you know, I'm a Whitebeard pirate now. I work for him because maybe Whitebeard did something to help out Wano, and he just felt like indebted to him. Okay, cool, whatever. Or it could have just been like he went with Inuarashi, Nekomamushi, with Roger, and, you know, ended up on Whitebeard's crew. We don't know the whole history behind this yet. Although, I would say it would be interesting because, I mean, if you had Kaido and Orochi taking over Wano, and if IZO was part of the Whitebeard crew at this point, you'd think that IZO would ask Whitebeard to help him fight back his country. And I don't really know, because if that was the situation there, you'd think Whitebeard would have definitely helped out his son's homeland if IZO was part of the Whitebeard crew at that point. But he didn't. There could always be a good reason for that, though. You know, he might have just been like, okay, well, you know, it's a really powerful country that Kaido controls now, and that stupid idiot Orochi, that stupid idiot, that's not redundant statement, redundant. Orochi, the shogun, he has control over all this, and I'm sure even back in the day, I mean, I don't think Kaido had the smiles back then, but he still had a really strong crew, no doubt about it. Maybe they decided not to go up against Wano, or maybe the Whitebeard crew did try something, but they just realized they weren't going to get very far. I'm not really sure about that. So, if that's the deal there, IZO would now be probably in his 50s at the youngest. You know, if we're just going to go with him, let's say he was 25 years old in this panel here, and then 30 years pass, and then, yeah, he would be in his mid-50s right now. Now, considering that he wears makeup, that might hide his age. He looks rather young when you look at him here. You know, he doesn't seem to have any wrinkles or anything, but he is wearing makeup. So that might be another way that Oda did to maybe disguise his true age. He might dye his hair or something like that. He could be maybe well into his 60s. We also don't know how old Yasuie was when he died. He was called like an old man and everything, so Yasuie, when he was executed most recently in the chapters, he could have been in his late 60s, early 70s by that point, right? And then in this flashback, he could have been in his 30s, you know, when he was helping out the Nine Red Scabbards and everything, and, you know, giving Oden advice and all that stuff. We just don't know about their ages. If we had Yasuie's age, or if we knew about Kiku's age, or Izo's age, that would really kind of help out. Inarashi, Nekomamushi, we don't know their ages. You know, Raizo, we don't even know his age. So if we know anything about that, maybe that would give us a better ballpark, but we just don't know yet, right? So I think, yeah, he's older than he looks. It's just he wears makeup and you can't tell. But if he took off the makeup and everything, we might see more wrinkles, maybe some gray hair or whatever. He's a lot older of a guy than you think he would be. He might be on the Whitebeard crew for a very, very long time, right? Now, where IZO would be at right now in Wano? Okay, well, the Whitebeard crew disbanded after the Payback War, after Blackbeard beat the crap out of them. Then Marco felt like he was a failure. He's like, man, I tried to avenge Pops and I failed, and they probably lost even more casualties there. There could be some division commanders that didn't make it out of the Payback War. You know, like, I'm sure, like, Jozu, Vista, Marco, you know, Marco's obviously still alive. I'm sure Jozu and Vista are still alive. They made it. But when it comes to the ones like, you know, Namor, he might have not have made it. Freaking Atmos might be dead for all we know. I think all of the division commanders, except for Ace, managed to make it out of Marineford alive. But, you know, we might cut back and be like, yeah, these division commanders died during the Payback War, and Marco decided, like, it's not worth it. I'm not good enough to be your captain. I'm not good enough to fill Pop's shoes. You know what? Before anybody else dies, I'm disbanding the Whitebeard crew. Just go your separate ways. And so Marco went back to Whitebeard's home island, Sphinx Island, to kind of protect the place and all that stuff, and all the other crewmates are somewhere else. Makes sense that IZO, after the disbandment, would have been like, okay, well, you know what, I'm going to return to my homeland. I feel like IZO was on Whitebeard's crew at least 2 years ago at Marineford, and for several years before that. IZO, I feel, would definitely be aware of the situation in his homeland, being on Whitebeard's crew. Whitebeard is a Yonko at this point. Kaido's a Yonko. I'm sure IZO was aware what was going on in Wano. It's just that he swore maybe like a life debt to Whitebeard. So it's just like, you know, his own country, like, it's important to him, but like Whitebeard's more important. So after Whitebeard dies and after the crew disbands, maybe IZO finally decided, you know what, it's finally time for me to go back to my homeland, back to Wano, and see if I can do anything to help. And so he maybe went back there, and I could see IZO doing the tactical method of this, you know, in infiltrating the flower capital, posing as a geisha, maybe even posing as a female, and then go seeping his way into the you know, the capital and everything, and gaining the trust. Kind of something similar to what Robin is doing, right? In fact, I could even see, and I mentioned this before, the possibility back in the, you know, the Vision Commander video, but I could see, like, Robin, you know, she's giving a performance. I mean, probably not right now because of everything that happened, but maybe they go and see a geisha performing, and you see IZO up there doing his dance, and everyone's like, oh man, look at that talented geisha, and it turns out, no, it is IZO, and he gets in contact with Kinemon or somebody, and maybe Kiku is IZO's daughter. Maybe it's possible, right? Or maybe some relation there. That's why Kiku took over after IZO left. So, it's possible there. Like, if Izo's in his late 50s, Kiku's maybe in her 20s, yeah, that timelines would sync up there. It's just he left the country, right? He just got out of there and just came back later. And so maybe he'll show up and give some information about the Whitebeard crew or about Kaido, because being part of a Yonko crew for so long, IZO might know some stuff about Kaido and his crew that the other people don't know about, and maybe he was gathering allies as well, and he was just kind of laying low, and then, the samurai and the Kozuki clan came back, and then here's the freaking Straw Hats in the island, and he's like, okay, I'm just gonna lay back for a little while to see where this goes. And now maybe IZO was even present during the execution of Yasuie, and that was kind of the last straw, and he knows what he must do and where the meeting spot is, because IZO was kind of out of the loop of all of this, maybe, and now he knows where to meet up. So whenever the samurai all meet up, with Kinemon and everybody and the 9 Red Scabbards, and Luffy gets freed and Kawamatsu gets freed, and everybody kind of meets back up, maybe that's when IZO arrives. IZO might actually be, let's say, because there's still Denjiro. Denjiro is somebody we know nothing about. How about, like, let's say they find out Denjiro died. Like, Kawamatsu and Ashiro Doji, they're still alive. What if Denjiro passed away in the 20 years? And they're like, oh man, we lost Denjiro. But then IZO shows up and is like, well, you might not have Denjiro, but you do have me. And it's just like a previous member of the 9 Red Scabbards, somebody they thought was gone. It's like, oh, well, we lost Denjiro, but we have IZO. He was every bit of a fighter as Denjiro was. He's also a member of the 9 Red Scabbards. So the 9 Red Scabbards are resurrected, something like that, with IZO being the member that replaces Denjiro. Could be something like that. So, yeah, I mean, it's crazy on Oda's part. I never thought that we would have IZO as a character of any sort of significance. Can we get King Do now? Can we get King Do? Like, it turns out they go to Elbaf, and it's like, oh yeah, no, King Do was a prince, and he was legitimately like He-Man, just like, welcome to Elbaf, Straw Hats. Would you like to pump some iron with me? Alright, well, hope you guys enjoyed this video and this little history lesson there on the Japanese kabuki theater. Have a great night, everybody. This will be Tekking, signing out. I had the fan backwards this entire video. Okay, signing out.